So here's the piñata so far. Now, I had a little more than 2 rolls of that streamer, and I'm losing one already, so I'm gonna have to glue that one back on. But I'll just put this down. I'll show you how much I managed to get done. So I got this side is there's a lot left to do on this side, so I don't know. I'll just show you. So I'll need to do, I've cut up another roll worth of streamer, crepe paper streamer, and I will see if that'll do it. And then there's a lot of gaps for me to fill in and stuff too. So anyway, now oh, and another thing I should mention is I'm leaving the door that I used to put the things into the piñata. I'm leaving that open, and then or too open. I'm going to put a little ribbon so that they don't have to burst the piñata if they don't want to, because it takes a lot of work making one of these things, and it's going to look really good when I'm done. So, I mean, sometimes family members, they don't want to break it, right? They know how much work you put into it. If they know, then they don't want to break it. Because they're just touched that, because it's hours and hours of doing this method of the crepe paper so it looks like little roses. It takes a very long time. So, and you can do it a number of ways. Like usually I have the glue bottle with the pointy spout here ready to go in my hand, and then I have the pencil in my other, and I just roll the crepe paper against my thigh, and then glue, and just continue like that. So that I use my thigh to roll, so that I don't have to use this other hand because this hand's full of the glue. But you can, by times I have done it another way. I've put the glue just in a saucer or whatever, or like a yogurt lid, and then I use 2 hands. But the thigh works just as well, for me anyway. But it does take an awfully long time. Even, you know, no matter how you do it, it's going to take a long time. Now, another thing you can do is to use up less of the crepe paper roses. You can just glue your, like you could use, say for the last layer of the piñata, you have a bunch of construction paper. Say I used red construction paper for my last layer, or I just glued some red construction paper on, or some crepe paper. Just, you know, you see, oftentimes for piñatas they'll just put it in and they'll just glue it flat, and you know, because it's cheaper and easier, but it looks bad. But you can do that and then put a few roses over top. And then the red on red, you're not going to really notice that it's not so full of roses. But, I mean, that's an option, right? I like to do it this way. I can watch movies anyway. And this one was not worth watching at all. The best thing about this, the most watchable part, the most interesting part of this movie was the credits at the end. Really, not worth watching. So bad. Trying to look up from my piñata to actually watch the show periodically from time to time made me motion sick. It was that bad. John McEnroe, in the realm of perfection, I don't know. I mean, it is funny to watch him complaining constantly, and James is like, that would have been very stressful for his opponents. And if you think about it, I mean, he wasn't the best of his time. He kind of annoyed / bullied the best of his time out of the game. But anyway, maybe that's just my opinion. The thing that I found interesting is when, like, this was put out in France, and there's a lot of French footage, right? And the thing that I find interesting is the whistling during the game. they're whistling. And for us, we may watch it and think, oh, they're the audience, they really love McEnroe because they keep whistling. But that is not what, when French people whistle at the players, that is not, it's not cheering them on, or it's not supportive. So it's interesting to know that, right, and to watch this. But the documentary itself was not good. So I'm getting busy doing this because I don't want to do this. So I have red pepper and turmeric and black pepper. Oh, I forgot to put my ginger in. It's not going to be nearly as bad then. It's still going to be bad, but I forgot the ginger, so we'll see. I'll have to do that later on today. James is having asparagus, which is going to be horrible, but healthy. Yeah, you know, with this juice, I find it's best to just, if it starts running down your face, just let it do that, rather than try to stop and clean yourself up and continue, because it's so bad. You just want to get it done quickly. You don't want to waste your time on it. All right. So James is having Palestinian parsnip soup with sprouted lentils, and I made that last June. I think the thing said June 18th. And the only good thing that I watched while doing that piñata was this, Mobile Homes. And it was an indie kind of film. So I don't know if I can see that with the camera. I don't know how I have it positioned. But that one is kind of freaky. I mean, you have a woman who's, first she goes into, there were some important points made with the making of this movie. It starts out, she goes into like a foster care sort of place, and she wants some place for her son to stay for a month, because for whatever reason she's not able to care for her son for the month, and she knows it. So she doesn't want to give up custody. She's not a bad parent, and the woman doesn't have any way to help her because there's no child abuse or anything like that, and so she's like, whatever, and she goes away. And when she gets out of the office, the woman in the receptionist said, "Your son left," and she's like, well, he knows his way home. And it's like the foster care was even less able to supervise her child than she was. You know, he left and they didn't stop him. He just walked away while she was in a meeting with the woman. So anyway, and then it says to you, well, you know, it's kind of crazy when you live in a system that there's something in place for agencies to take away the children of poor out of work mothers or single mothers, but there's really not any kind of thing in place to help them keep their children. So the child might be put into a foster care situation with worse parents, or you know what, and so that's frustrating. But as it turned out, she loved her son, but she was not very fit to take care of him. She kept going back to this boyfriend who was not, I mean, I can't really imagine a worse boyfriend for a single mother to have. I don't know why she kept going back to him. Like, he was doing cockfighting and taking them along, you know, and then while they were at the cockfight, you know, this little son, he gets him to go out and sell some drugs and stuff like that. And it's like, wow. So she's pretty mad about that when she finds out. And he's abandoned the son in there, and there's a police raid and all this crazy stuff. And so anyway, she drops the guy at that point, but she ends up going back. And I guess at the end, she knows she's going to keep going back. And so she's trying to find a new route for her son. Anyway, it's a good movie. It's worth watching. And I think James has fallen asleep. Hot lemon and honey. And I made some for James, and he's not going to want it, but he hasn't been feeling well lately. Oh, I spilled some of myself. And I think hot lemon and honey is good to cure whatever ails you. As well, it's not actually hot. I mixed up the honey with the hot water, and then I add the lemon juice, and now it's about lukewarm. Anyway. Okay, so I guess I will talk about Atlas Obscura for a minute. So this is a book by a few young hipsters, and the most interesting things that I made note of are mostly I was interested in what do they have for Canada, right? And so I did make note of some other things outside of Canada that just seemed really interesting too. But I'll show you these things. My bum's a little wet because that cushion is a little wet, as it turns out, because it rained. So we have Medicine Hat here. So we're on page 258, and this is a scene from the air. Check that out. I don't know if you can see that in the picture, but wow, that totally does look like a chief or something like that. So that's pretty awesome. Don't know about listening to music, but that's pretty interesting. And I'll show this. I've been wanting to see forever and ever, and I'm quite close to it, but somehow I have not made it. It's the painter's palette that is Spotted Lake, and that's Okanagan Highway 3, 6 miles west of Osoyoos. And apparently the lake's on private land, it says. I didn't know that, but you can see it from the highway. Oh, here's another one I wrote. The snake orgy, can you see that? That's 4 miles north of Narcisse along Highway 17. You go in late April or early May, and you see that. That's awesome, hey? Oh, let's see. My butt is getting sore sitting on this, perched on this corner of the plant pot. So, this is on, oh, I forgot to tell you the page numbers. So, anyway, this one's 273. And it's Cochrane, which I've never heard of in Toronto, or in Ontario. It's 7-hour drive from Toronto, it says. And see, there's a woman swimming, but there's glass between her and the polar bear. But I think that's pretty nifty. And I have got to sit up soon because this... Okay. Buenos Aires, tunnels underneath there. Looks interesting. That's page 384. And this one I just thought was too beautiful to ignore. So isn't that lovely? Toxic lake on an active volcano, it says. And there's no flamingos there right now, but I can just imagine the flamingos color against that. Wouldn't that be fantastic? 4 hours south of Mendoza, near the Chilean border. And you can only get on the road there from December to March. And there's 4-wheel drive tours from San Rafael and Mendoza. So That is so worth going to see. If you could see some flamingos on that, wow. So, oh boy. Whew. I'll get back to my wet seat here. It's not that wet. But, yeah, this actually wasn't that bad to read. Atlas Obscura. Now, I'm just going to set this up around my cup. I'll read this. Well, it sounds like James woke up because he let Elvis out, who's barking up a storm. Grocery Story, John Steinman. Now, the promise of food co-ops in the age of grocery giants. That's the whatever. The government of Canada funded this book. I can't see why. The author has a radio show, podcast, streaming TV series, was an elected director 2006 to 16 of Kootenai Co-op. No mention of his education. I'm going to look it up. The Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, AMP, founded in 1859, grew to 150 stores by 1880. In 1929, they had 16,000 grocery stores and $1 billion in sales, equivalent to $14.8 billion in 2019. They had their own factories and warehouse. That was page 15. 17. If, for example, cream of wheat sold to AMP would sell cream of wheat for slightly less than everyone else would, so every other retailer stopped buying cream of wheat. When cream of wheat stopped selling to AMP filed a lawsuit against cream of wheat for price fixing. They lost since no price fixing occurred. 18. AMP collected 10 cents of every grocery dollar spent. 21. Safeway, largest grocery store in the West. Loblaw is Canada's largest chain. Sobeys started in Nova Scotia's second biggest chain. Loblaw expanded into New York and Chicago. That was a long time ago. 27. 29 states implemented chain store taxes. 57. Walmart took over Asda in 1999. Asda's banana prices dropped by 20% when they took over. And you'd expect that. We think about, oh well, a big store takes over little, there's economies of scale, and you should be able to get your bananas for a lower price. But it works out that they're just going to collect the profits for themselves. So they'll have a few flyer items which draw you in, and if you're a sensible shopper, you just get those flyer items and you head the hay out of there, because everything else is marked up higher. So since 1980, markups have risen steadily to 67% on average. Growth in the consumer price level relative to the firm's cost of 1% per year. 50, that's page 58. 60. Suicide among dairy farmers is high. As retail prices increase, prices paid to producers have decreased. 66. More pesticide used to keep produce blemish-free. I don't believe that the large grocery chains have anything to do with increased pesticide use. That's a consumer thing. Consumers want their produce blemish-free. And whether you're buying it in a grocery store or in a farmer's market or wherever, you're probably not going to pick out fruit with like bird chew holes in it or something like that, right? Peck holes, I guess. 70. Loblaw had a policy of lowering their price to meet competitors' prices and then deducting the difference from the supplier, which is interesting. So I don't know how they managed that. I mean, he explains how they did it, but it's crazy. 110. Canada's largest grocery chain has co-op roots. 1990, United Farmers Cooperative hired TP Loblaw to develop a chain of co-ops. The effort failed, but Loblaw took this experience and founded Loblaw Company Limited, which makes you wonder, hey? 167, the largest grocery chain on the continent is Kroger. That's in Ohio. That's their base. Page 209, grocery giants now do local marketing. So whatever the independent groups are doing, they find a way to use that to their advantage also, right? So, like for example, Walmart, Costco, and Kroger now are the largest retailers of organic food. So, whatever, which you'd think that that'll just make food better for the consumer in the long run. If, you know, if the independent guys keep thinking up ways to improve the quality of the food, and then, but
the big dudes will find ways of circumventing the rules for organic and junk like that.
Sure, exactly. So then you end up eating organic food that has been grown on municipal waste that could have all sorts of prescription drugs in it, and
just bugs generally.
Whatever, yeah. So
human bugs carried through the feces.
Page 237. BCI awards $10,000 grants to the startups they work with. There's member loans, local government funding. Hub City Co-op in South Carolina received $350,000 from the city. $200,000 as low-interest loan, $150,000 as grant. Sugar Beet Co-op in Illinois got $500,000 in tax incremented financing from the municipality. Three Rivers Market in Tennessee got $450,000 in gap financing to relocate and expand. And when I hear things like that, that makes me go, wow, well, I have to look into who the family members were that were related to the family within the municipal government or whatever. Like those things don't actually, they interest me, but I don't believe it shows that I have any possibility of coming up with that funding or anything, you know. It would be given to somebody else. Probably somebody who has no education or experience or
friends and
qualifications.
Family of the grantors.
Exactly.
The way of the world.
Yeah. Because, I mean, after you see so much of it, you just get to realize, oh, well, that's the way it is. So you don't see it as, oh, look at this, it's a potentially open door to me. Nope, not to me.
It's only potentially.
Yeah.
It never goes beyond that.
Anyway, so I guess that's it.